us live.
There we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Behind the Scenes with Jen. I'm Jen Giresi, Chief Operating Officer of Advanced Research Media. Welcome to our show today. As you can tell, we have an amazing special guest. He is the host of MD Global Muscle, produced at On the Rise Media Studios across the pond in the UK, also a contributing editor to Muscular Development magazine with his monthly column, Global Muscle, MD Global Muscle Buzz, as well as several features, including a new one that I can't talk about just yet. Please welcome to our show, Giles Tiger Thomas.
Yay!
Yay!
How you doing, Jen?
Hey, Giles. It is so awesome to have you here. You know, it's fantastic to not only call you a colleague, but also a really good friend. So I'm really happy that you're on the show with us today.
Yep, me too. Thank you for asking me, and I've been looking forward to this. And it was good timing as well, because obviously we're coming up to the 100th episode of Global Muscle.
Yes.
And obviously I had my bereavement a few weeks ago, so obviously that probably wasn't a good time. I was a bit obviously distracted,
Yes.
and also it's my birthday next Tuesday.
Oh, there you go. Well, happy early birthday. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. Good
Yeah.
for you. So let's talk about episode 100. That's airing next Wednesday.
Correct.
How does that make you feel? I mean, some networks not have shows that don't even reach episode 100. And here you are at episode 100, also the season finale for season 4.
Yeah. It started in. I can remember actually. I remember when Steve gave us the go ahead, and I remember I was watching a film in bed, and then I got the email come through, and it was he's like, okay, Giles. He said, what I want is because it used to be called Global Muscle Radio then,
Yes.
and that was November 2018.
I remember I had a little hand in that.
No, you did. You were very instrumental because I really wanted to do more with MD, like on like a full time basis. And so Steve kind of comes back and says, well, now that Sean Ray's left, he said we don't have a radio show, like an online show that people can click on. And I remember thinking, and I remember saying yes to it, and I'm thinking, and as I said yes to it, I remember having this feeling of, I felt really nervous, and I just thought, me talking into a mic I feel like it would run out of steam after a few weeks. So I kind of came up with the idea for the studio, because I'd just been for a photography lesson at the same place where the Pump Media Studio. And I just kind of said, well, I thought I was kind of insecure about just doing an audio thing. So I thought, well, I'll come back and I'll do something, I'll over deliver. So that's exactly what we did. And 100 episodes. It's funny because people, because they see the kind of the finished product, but there's so much that goes into this behind the scenes, and there can be so much stress as well, which people don't ever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Going now. But yeah, it's one of those things. But it's always worth it. It's always worth it, and it's just to make sure that show goes out on time every single week. It's always a challenge. It's always and I'm always trying to make it better and better and better. Like when we set up the new studio, well, just over a year and a half ago, but that was it. Yeah, October 2019. November we decided to set up the new studio.
Yes.
And I just remember, like we were like chimpanzees with trying to do brain surgery. We had all this equipment, and we didn't know how. But do you remember? It was a disaster. But it was awful. But do you know what? It's like MD, Steve,
Learning experience.
Yeah, you all stuck by us, and you kind of gave us that space to try and figure it out. And I wanted to kind of really reward that back. And so every single week we set ourselves this standard of trying to make the show better, whether it be sound, lighting, editing, guests. And every single week I wanted to be incrementally better, until it got to a point. And I think it was around about July, August. It was during the lockdown. And I remember just watching the episode, saying to you, and I said, Jen, I'm happy with this. I'm finally, and I feel really happy with what we're putting out now, because I watched them back on the lives, and I'm really scrutinizing. It's like when I watched the Buff Bombshell today, I went straight into Lauren, into the office, and I said, right, feedback. So every week, feedback straight away when it's fresh in my mind. So you've got to be OCD about these things. You've got to be, but
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's just been such a thrill. It's been such a roller coaster as well at times, but it's kind of because I've got the other shows as well I do with Ronnie, but
Yes.
Global's my baby, Global's the one that I always want to keep going and make it bigger and better, because at the end of the day, it's about, like, sometimes the effort we go to, even like sometimes, like Dan Solomon noticed, I wear a suit, I always wear
Yes.
an iron shirt, and
Yes.
it's like little things like this. And when they come on screen, when the guests come on screen, I think most of them, by and large, really appreciate the lengths we go to really kind of present them because we're trying to create like a TV show, like a TV style, So sorry,
Absolutely.
I'm rambling.
No. Please, it's awesome. Please continue. Yep. Hey, I got mine right here. There we go.
Oh,
Cheers, my friend.
cheers.
Chink.
I always drink a lot of green tea when I'm on the show in between guests. I have a cup on the floor, and I'm always drinking it because I get a very dry mouth sometimes when I'm interviewing because I talk so much, So yeah, so Global. It's I mean, I remember, and the thing is, that first episode, I'll never forget it. We had Phil Heath that first episode.
Yes, I do remember that.
And do you know what? I'll always be grateful to Phil for that, because, like, he didn't know whether it was what it was. It could have been just, no disrespect, but it could have just been me on Skype. He didn't really know me that well. We'd spoken a few times.
Right.
But he kind of went, okay, he said yes. And that really set the bar high for us. And it really got us off to a very good start. And he was so generous with his time. I mean, I think he was on nearly 2 hours,
Yeah.
Don't you remember?
I do remember. That was a great show.
But we hit the ground running. I hit the ground running with that.
Yes, you did.
That's what really. And then Flex Lewis came on, and I remember because episode 2, because that's when we had just one guest per episode. That was the longest interview we've ever done. That was 2 hours and 15 minutes with one guest.
Wow. One guest, 2 hours, 15 minutes?
Yeah, Flex Lewis. Yeah, and to be honest, the way he said to me afterwards, he says, Giles, he says, I didn't get through half of what I wanted to talk about, because he didn't really do he doesn't really do any podcasts at the time. He still doesn't really. And he said, because obviously me and Flex both come from Wales. We both our careers have kind of come through the bodybuilding, on a different, plane or whatever. Him as a competitor, me as a media guy. And I think he just said yes to it. And he says, look, Giles, I just want you to know, he says, I don't really do them. He says, but I will do them for you because, you're my friend, my brother from Wales and all that. And so, yeah, those 2 episodes really kind of set the, we set our bar very high with that. And I'll always be grateful to Flex Lewis and Phil Heath for giving us that time. It was very appreciated. And, I'm very grateful for that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I remember those shows, how excited you were about having Phil and Flex on. And those shows were huge. People loved them. The feedback on that was tremendous. And one of the things I have noticed about Global over the time is that you always make it better on each and every episode. You always advance it a little bit more each time. And it's these little changes here and there, I think, that people see and people respond to. And that's one of the reasons why I think it has such tremendous staying power, because of those little things that you put in to make the show even more exceptional.
Well, you've got to experiment, and you've got to continually evolve it, because you can never stand still, because somebody else will come and either copy you and do it better, or they'll steal a portion of your audience. And the thing is, during lockdown last year, every single week there was new shows coming out, new podcasts.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, right, okay, we really need to find ways to try and stay out in front here. Even, we've got. The thing is, we were very limited because we could only produce what we could produce in the studio. We were on lockdown, so we couldn't go out.
Right.
But I had that studio and I had the editing room, the separate editing room, and I thought, well, we can really test ourselves with what we can produce here. And, I'd like to start doing a bit more training footage, though, as well, because I remember the Nathan Diaz one. That got really good views.
Yes. People responded really well to that one. And as the gym's opening up, that would be wonderful to include those segments again. I know there was the segment with Ryan Terry that you did too, the back
Yeah, yeah,
training. Yeah,
yeah.
those were
Yeah.
really well received.
Ryan Terry, we did Jamie the Giant, the leg training,
Yes.
and plus it's something outside of the studio. It's something I've enjoyed. But like every week, I try to make every episode different. We've had split screens because when there was no shows, I thought, well, what about, because there's nothing of like real up to date relevance that we can talk about right now because there's no shows, there's nothing to speculate about, there's nothing to debate.
Right.
I'm going to go right back. I'm going to go right back. So a few months ago, as you know, I decided to reach out to the legends, and we had Frank Zane, Samir Banu,
Yes. I
Lee
remember
Haynes,
that. Yes.
Chris Cormier, Jean-Pierre Fox. To be honest, because it was such a quiet period, there was nothing going on. The forums were like really, there was very little going on because nobody had anything to talk about. Because when it's show season, you know how busy the forums get, you know how busy Instagram gets.
Yes.
All the fans, these kind of seasonal fans come out of hiding. But things were global; it's year round, so we've really got to try and continually bring content every single week, at least 2.5. I mean, it's a 2.5, 3 hour show.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, yeah. So so what I did, and I really really got a lot out of that. I mean, to get Lee Haney on. Oh, big shout out to Ron as well because he reached out to Lee Haney for me to get him on. So I really appreciate that.
That's fantastic.
Lee Haney was one of those ones off my bucket list I've never interviewed because there's not many people left that I haven't interviewed. Because if you think about it, 100 episodes and what? If you average, say, 3 guests an episode, that's 300 guests.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not many people off my bucket list that are left now, so that I really want to interview. And Lee Haney was one of them. So to get Lee Haney. But you know which one was probably one of my most memorable this year? Was Samir Banu.
Yes.
He
That
was
was,
hilarious.
yeah, that was I love that interview with Samir Banu. That was absolutely fantastic.
He's such a character. I mean, and I've never really spoke to him before because sometimes he just like trying to think of somebody else in the industry like Chris Cormier. I mean, I've been around. I mean, there's that video that Chris Cormier posted in 1997 at the British Grand Prix, and now I'm in the video with my camera backstage. I was reporting for Muscle Mag. It's like our paths have crossed, but we've never really interacted that much. So me and Chris has been on the show a few times in the last few months, and I've really got to know him now. After all these years I've been in the industry, I'm in my 26th year in the industry,
Wow.
and it's like, and sometimes that's a good thing about global because it really connects you with people. I mean, I've had some really nice experiences and been really pleasantly surprised where you have an impression of someone, and then you get them on, and it's so much different but better as well. And Chris Cormier was one of those. He's a wonderful guest, and I had him on split screen with Dorian Yates, with Melvin Anthony. I did one on Ronnie's show with him and Ronnie Coleman, which he really appreciated. And yeah, but it's good. It's like I said, we're global. I just like to mix it up, and because the thing is, I've got so much history in the sport. I mean, like I said, I'm 45 next Tuesday. But I started.
Oh, you're a youngin. Whoops, did I lose you? Giles? Uh-oh, it appears as though we may
I
have...
was.
Giles, are you still with me? Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties. Giles, are you still there? Well, it's a live show. You gotta love it.
Surprise. Oh, you.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, you broke up a little bit. You still with me?
Oh, hello.
Oh,
You're back.
okay, there you go. I lost you for a minute.
Hi, Jen. You're back. Yeah, sorry about that.
Live show. You gotta
No.
love it.
You were looking. I was like, is that a very surprised response, or is she frozen on the screen there?
You gotta love live TV. Not, the unexpected can happen.
Damn right, damn right.
Well,
Sorry,
first,
what were we talking about there, Jen?
you were saying that you were going to turn 45 next week, and I
Oh,
said, "Well, you're a youngin."
didn't hear that. Yeah, so that was my point. Yeah, so I've been doing this 26 years, so, and I never really stopped either. I started off as a photographer and a writer.
Yes.
Then and then it's kind of gone on to columns and articles and covering shows. I mean, I was in going all over Europe when I was like 19, 20 years old, to Spain, Italy, France, Germany. I've
Wow.
been all over the world I've been traveling the world since I was 19. Sorry, my cat. I've been traveling the world since I was 19, and I'm very, very, I feel very, very lucky and very fortunate to be doing what I've been doing for as long as I've been doing it, because it's enabled me to see the world and have some amazing experiences. I mean, like you said, I probably will write my book one day.
I think you should. I always tell you, Giles, you need to write a book. You got to put this down. It'll be a bestseller. But let me ask you a question about your bodybuilding career. When did you decide yourself that you wanted to get into bodybuilding and actually become a bodybuilder?
I started training when I was 13 because I got beaten in an arm wrestle by a girl. Her name's Lisa Fury now, and her name was Lisa
Wow.
Tam. She's on my Facebook. She's on Twitter. And I had these pair of dumbbells. I mean, how far do you want to go back here?
Go for it.
Okay, I was 13, and I had these 10-pound sand-filled weeder dumbbells that my sister had to carry back from the shop to the car because I wasn't strong enough to carry them, because she's 2 years older than me to the day.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I started weight training that night, and I was so angry. I did 130 rep curls, but I only did the one arm.
Ah.
I did the one arm, so basically I couldn't even straighten my arm for like a week.
Oh my God.
So anyway, so I started. And I had this friend called Ashley, and he was this big kind of Italian kid, and all the girls liked him, and he was kind of cool, and he was kind of like and he was really sort of like kind of well built for his age, and he weight trained, and he kind of taught me about weight training, and I started going to the gym. I got turned away from the gym the first two times because I said I wasn't old enough, and they weren't insured. But I started training from 13, but I didn't compete till I was 28 years old. That was in 2004.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because up to that point, like for many years, I trained from 13 to probably 28, those 15-year period, I trained 5 days a week, ate 6 meals a day. But also knowing and thinking for 15 years that I'd never be good enough to compete because I didn't think I had the genetics. And then in 2003, I came back from partying one night with my girlfriend at the time. And I took my top off and she took some photos. And I remember getting the pictures back and being really, really shocked. And I was like, oh God, I didn't expect that. You could see I had a good shape, wide shoulders, small waist. And I was like, shit, I'm lean. I'm looking, I mean, I could do a diet and do a show. So I did a show and I won it. I won my first show. I'm trying to think, I've got any pictures. Yeah, I got some pictures on the walls here. And
I think it's
yeah,
on the thumbnail. I can fade it in just for a minute so people can see.
I've got it here. And I have pictures of myself on the wall, by the way. That's me in the brown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was, yeah. So that was 2004. So, and it's funny because when I told everyone I was going to compete, people laughed at me. They literally laughed, even though I was quite a big guy. I was probably like 230 pounds, lean, 6 foot tall. People just laughed at me, and I just thought, right, okay. So I prepped myself. I didn't do any cardio. I didn't take any diuretics, and I stayed covered up the whole time. I had a couple of people looking at me here and there, but I kind of did everything myself. Didn't take any photos. And then I showed up on stage and I won it. And it was one of the toughest qualifiers in the country. So I
Wow.
won that, and everyone was really shocked because, I mean, I used to be referred to as that sausage-armed photographer. So
Sausage arm photographer.
yeah, and so this was the North Britain, and they'd have about 1,100 people in the audience, and I was the first class, and I was number one. There was about nine, I think it was nine or 10 in the category, and I walked out, and everyone just went quiet. I could look down, I could see everyone just staring at me, and they were like, "That's Giles." Okay, because I was well known because I was working for John Citrone. I was training with John Citrone, very, very famous British bodybuilder.
Yes.
So I was very well known in the area, because I'd moved from Wales to Newcastle. So so people were just like, and apparently one of the judges actually started texting John Citrone, who was on holiday in Malta, messaging him saying, "Effing hell, Giles looks unbelievable. He's won this easy." So of course,
Wow. That's
so
quite a
and it's funny
compliment.
because when I got to the venue, I had my hoodie on and I was saying hello to people. And I said to my girlfriend, I said, why? That's three people I've said hello to now. I said, none of them have said hi back. And she said, Giles, they don't recognize you. They didn't recognize me. They didn't know it was me because I
Wow.
had the drawn face. And they just, because so anyway, yeah, so I competed and yeah, and I did 14 shows. I won two, and I pretty much placed top three in most of them. But I kind of got worse as I went on because my lifestyle in between contests wasn't exactly conducive to a good bodybuilding lifestyle.
And I think we'll leave it at that. But but
So I was enjoying the notoriety because when you're up in there, up in Newcastle, it's a big bodybuilding scene, and I think I enjoyed the benefits of the nightclubs and also because I was working with John Citrone and he was a very well respected person, so I kind of just I don't know. Plus, I had this newfound confidence as well, which I'd never had before. But the thing is that 2004 that was doing that bodybuilding show when I thought, okay, I've got terrible genetics. I just don't want to make a fool of myself, but I'm confident I won't be the biggest, but I can get in good condition and I can diet really, really hard, which I did for 13 weeks. And I was pretty much probably one of the best conditioned in the whole show. And like I said, I prepped myself and I just kind of went to ground and I just did it. But after that, it gave me, I can only describe it as an almost naive level of self-belief afterwards, because I thought, if I can do this, someone with terrible genetics, no coaching, nothing, it made me think I could literally achieve anything I put my mind to. And then it kind of changed my life. It changed my life because even though I was a very motivated, driven person, I mean, I was building a multi-million-pound supplement company with John Citrone. I'd designed most of his best-selling products.
wow.
The company went from a small local company to exporting to 28 different countries, turning over millions a year.
Whew.
And it was, and a lot of the things like the distribution network and exporting was all kind of down to me, really, and that obviously the effect I had and the way we all worked together. So it was a really exciting time for me, but it also was a bit of a turning point, and then in 2013 I did my last bodybuilding show. That was in the Classic, and it's funny because I dropped a lot of weight in the last week when I was carbing up, and I was having a few problems. And obviously, I found out afterwards I was diabetic.
Right.
So I was shut the stomach down, and so my weight dropped like a stone in the final week. I've got pictures of me at 2 weeks out, and I'm literally probably 18. Well, it works out I'm probably about 18 pounds heavier.
Wow.
Very lean. I had straighted lats, and my glutes. I don't know why my glutes were straight. I don't think I took any pictures of my legs, but or my glutes or anything. But yeah. And then I qualified for the British finals. But then Steve wanted me to cover the British finals for MD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny, and I'd just been to Cyprus, so I was very tanned. So I went to the show in my suit, so I was tanned. But because of I didn't know I was diabetic yet, I was very drawn in the face, and I was still really shredded. So I'm walking around with my mic and people are like literally thinking that I'm competing. So I'm like, well, no, I'm not competing. I had a choice of whether compete at the British finals or cover the British finals for MD and give the fans, the bodybuilding fans, something to follow. So I made that decision. So that's the sacrifice I made for MD. I missed out on my opportunity to compete in the British finals.
Wow. So you chose MD over the British finals.
Yeah. I was going to get annihilated. I wasn't happy with how I looked at the qualifier. Even though I qualified, I got third. I wasn't happy how I looked. I just was not happy. Yeah,
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, I've got some. I look good. I've got a picture of me next to the Navi Mr. Universe, and 35 kilos heavier than me, and it's a good. I'll show you. Like that was backstage.
Oh wow!
So that guy, he's 118 kilo.
Whew.
So
looking good there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So afterwards I found out I got pretty sick, and then found out I was diabetic, and I kind of just left the bodybuilding thing alone, But obviously the whole time I was working. I mean, I started working for MD in 2010.
That was my next question. How'd you get involved with MD?
That's a very good question. Well, thing is, I've been doing magazine work since 1995. like photography. Because thing is with me, the British magazines, when they sent me to an event, they wouldn't just get the photos or the report, they'd get both. So this is why, like sometimes the federation, like these big European or world championships, like NABA or all these other federations, they would pay half the costs, and the magazine would pay the other half, and then I'd get paid. But they knew that they would get everything with me, and they'd get a lot of content from those trips because I'd be doing photo shoots and stuff like that, with my camera and everything. So I was working for, it was about 2008, I decided to step my game back up again with the bodybuilding media. And I was working for everyone. I was working for bodybuilding.com, Muscle Mag, a European magazine called Body Fitness, worked for a really, really great guy called Candido Morrow. And I was doing probably 20 pages per month in their magazine, at least 20, sometimes 24, 25 pages of content,
wow.
of photographs, articles, show reports, interviews, gossip column, which they only wanted 2 pages, but because it got so popular, it got to like, I think the longest I did a 9-page gossip column.
Wow.
9 pages, yeah. So anyway, what I was doing, I really, really, really wanted to work for MD because I'd been on the forums from, I think it's 2007, 2008 I joined, and I was really, really wanting to work for MD. So I thought, obviously, the real focal point and a huge, was the forums, the MD forums.
Yes.
So I spoke to Body Fitness magazine, and when a couple of months after the magazine had gone out, I'd say, could you send me the PDFs of all my articles? So they'd send me the PDFs, and then I put them on the forum, the MD forum. So obviously my work was consistently being seen, and then it was around the time where Rowley, Zach Khan were, this on this side of the pond, as you call it, there was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, that was a little bit. Bonac was about a couple of years later.
Okay.
But around 2008, 2009, there was a lot of good talent coming out from this side of the world. And I remember, apparently, this is as I understand it, Steve was on a conference call with Ron Harris and Sean Ray, and he said, look, he says, we because that was when there was multiple magazines, and everyone was fighting over the next big thing, and
right.
I'd just done 2-piece article of Zach Khan which also launched him to international fame because Nutrex and Weider, the Flex magazine, kind of noticed him there, this next big freak, and because obviously he had a personality as well. So I did the article with Kevin Horton. He did the photos, but but basically Steve said, look, MD wants to be the first to know about these guys. Do you know anyone? And Ron and Sean both said me. They both mentioned my name.
Wow.
So then I remember actually I was sat in the living room and I got a DM on the forum from Steve. And he says, "Hi, Giles." He says, I love I love what you're doing, and thanks for all the content. And he says, would you be interested in doing a column called the Euro Muscle Scene for MD? And I was just like, yeah, of course. So originally it was just a 1-page, 500 words. I think he just wanted to test me out. Okay. So I sent it in, and within a few days of him receiving that, he said, okay, do you want to bump it up to 1,000 words and we'll make it 2 pages? I was like, yeah. So that's where that started. And then at the time, the online editor, Robbie Durand, great guy, I loved working with him. He was awesome. I really, really loved Robbie. He was, because this was when the time Ruley was in Holland, in Rotterdam. This was November 2009.
Wow.
No, 2010.
Okay.
2010.
Okay.
Yeah. And he says, look, Giles, he says, if we send you a camcorder, a microphone, because it was tapes then, and he says, membership shirts and all this, he says, would you go to Rotterdam and get us some content of Ruley? This was Christmas 2010, and he says, well, I'll send you the equipment. So he sent it in a big box. And then my first video assignment for MD was February 2011, and I flew out to Rotterdam, and it was all expensed and everything for MD. And basically, the mission statement was get as much content as you can possibly get in the 2 or 3 days that you're there. So of course, I did about 3 or 4 videos of Ruley. I did videos of Marshall Herman, Gregor Francesca, the classic guy who won the Italian show a couple of years ago. Because there was a lot of good bodybuilders there. So I was just working non-stop, pumping out content, filming, interviewing. And so, of course, I came back and sent the tapes off. I had to FedEx the tapes off. And and that was it. And then then they said, "Oh, do you want to start covering shows?" So they sent me to the Arnold Europe and in Madrid, Finland. I was doing, it was just growing and growing, because obviously I could
Yes.
write, I could interview, and I was learning fast on the video interviews, which I loved. And it kind of it just went from there really. So that was 2010. Yeah.
And the rest was history, as we know. Is history and continuing. But I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
stop for a second just to go to the chat. I want to thank Balkan Knife for upgrading to MD Global Muscle Insider. We do thank you for upgrading, Balkan. Thank you. And I'm just going to go to a couple of questions that we have for you today. I want to go to the MD Noble forums first. We're going to start with, I'm going to save one for last, though, that everybody wants to see us fight over.
Oh, yeah,
You know the one.
I've got a clue here.
Okay, this comes from Betty Ona. And Betty Ona asks, if you could choose a career and trajectory between Dorian and his 6 titles or John Citrone and what he looks like at 78, which one would you choose and why?
I saw that one. I saw this question the other day, and it was the one that actually really stumped me.
You know I was going to ask it.
I think the Olympia titles, because they're timeless.
Yes.
And the thing is, well, once you've got that, like Dorian's, like people don't look at Dorian now and see a guy who just looks kind of normal. They see a legend, Not that John Strone isn't a legend, but I think you'll always be known as a Mr. Olympia. You'll always be known as a legend. You're only one of 16 men. So I think Dorian Yates and the 6 Olympia titles.
Good answer. Okay, so the next one that we have comes from, we'll take it from Howard. Howard has 3 questions for you. Okay, the first one is, who was the most intelligent sounding pro you ever interviewed? And did it surprise you?
Phil Heath.
Really?
Yeah, no question. Straight away, because if I really thought about it, I'd probably be able to think of a few. But that was the one that really took me by surprise because I was a huge Phil Heath fan. And the fact that at the end of his career, I'd managed to interview and get him on and talk to him. The thing is, don't forget, I did the UK tour with him as well. And I got to spend, 8-9 days with him, pretty much 24, well, not 24/7, but, all day long traveling and talking. And it made me, it's funny how you can be following someone like Phil Heath for so many years, and you don't really know who he is until I actually.
Yes.
I didn't realize how smart he was. I didn't, and it's like it makes me wish that he'd done more interviews like that and more kind of, because he was really. I don't know. Like on the tour, I said to him, "Look, just be yourself. Just give them who you are." And every single day he shocked me. He really surprised me. And I guess maybe we all had a wrong impression of him. I think a lot of it's down to that Generation Iron film. I think that misled people. And I think he's one of these people who's kind of a private person. He maybe didn't make himself available enough. I don't know. Maybe that's on him. But all I know is that the first time I spoke to him, I was really, really shell shocked at how
I couldn't tell at all when you spoke to him.
Sorry?
I couldn't tell at all that you had that reaction when you spoke to him the first time, for when you told me.
Because the thing is, I didn't expect that. I didn't know what to expect, but if you'd asked me, it's not like he was a new face, and it comes on, he goes, like you get on someone like, what's his name? Oh, what's his name? The guy who won the Cali Pro a few years ago. Oh, I can't. Gerald Williams.
Okay.
Super smart, but I think because he's kind of new, I hadn't really followed him for that long. It was a nice impression he left, but I hadn't known about him for 7 years. I just think Phil keeps it really well hidden. I think he made it. People just followed him for his physique, and I think maybe he just kind of kept himself to himself. But super smart guy, super. We have a mutual friend in Cyprus, someone he went to college with, and he said Phil's one of the most emotionally mature and kind of in touch, people I've ever met. And it's funny because the impression I had of him through the media and everything else was completely different. He had this, but he was a huge shock, but it was a really, And I'm really, really glad I got to spend those 8, 9 days with him, because it was a real pleasure to get to know him better. Someone who really was one of my all-time favorite bodybuilders.
And eventually you became friends with him too. So, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, it was an honor. It was a real honor.
Okay, now Howard's second question to you is, what is the most wild and crazy thing you have ever observed firsthand at a bodybuilding contest or expo? I think I know the answer to this one.
Oh, do you?
Yep. Well, first
I
you go,
bet
you go and I'll see if...
Hang on, at an expo, at a bodybuilding show or an expo.
Bodybuilding show or expo.
Oh shit. Bodybuilding show. Oh, bodybuilding. Hang on.
I'll give you a hint, Arnold.
What?
One of the Arnolds.
Well, probably not something I can talk about on camera.
No, actually, well, we won't do that, no. But I was thinking in terms of when the three of you were in the front row, and during the strongman, he had the rock, the bolt,
Oh, yeah,
and it fell off and it almost crushed you. Crushed you guys.
The rock. Yeah. I think the one when I don't know really. That's a really good question. I mean, I've had a lot of like crazy things happen to me, like when me and Flex Wheeler were sat in Arnold's seats at the Arnold Europe, because we needed to, because me and Flex were doing the play-by-play for MD, and I needed to type. This is when we use laptops, and Arnold and his entourage, there was like 10 of them. There was 10 seats free. So Raphael, before the split, he put us in Arnold's seats, and he says, "Look, when Arnold comes out, you're gonna have to move." So we were sat there typing. I was typing away for Flex because there was no two seats together, and I needed to be sat with Flex to type for him.
Okay.
I've got another funny story about that as well.
Okay.
And then Raphael, and then Arnold was coming out with his security, and then Raphael Santoya comes up and he says, "Excuse me, gentlemen, Arnold's here. You're gonna have to move." And I put my arm, folded my arms. I said, "I'm not moving." And Flex proper freaked out because he was like. And I went, "I'm joking, of course, let's move." But and Raphael kind of got the joke, but Flex thought I was being deadly serious.
That's funny.
But also, that's probably not the best story from that trip. That was the 2011 Arnold Europe. That was the first ever Arnold Classic outside of America as well. That was 2011. That's the one that Victor Martinez won, and then he got arrested coming back for put in jail. Do you remember?
No, I don't know that one.
No, it was his. It was something to do with his immigration, and he got put in jail for several months. He got put in jail for months.
Wow.
It was really sad, really sad. And that was that run of bad luck. I remember his sister got murdered, and it was like just one thing after.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. I mean, he was literally the unluckiest man in the sport for about 5 years there.
That's terrible.
But anyway, so then afterwards, after the show, me and Flex Wheeler do the wrap up. And we did it on one of these trade stands. And my girlfriend at the time, MD, paid for her to come with me, so she could operate the camera. So anyway, I'm doing a wrap up with Flex Wheeler, and we did a really good wrap up. It was about good 20 minutes. The energy was high. We finished, and then all of a sudden I hear this voice, and she says, "Excuse me, guys, I forgot to press record." I was like,
"Oh my God!"
So I went.
Oof.
I froze, and Flex Wheeler went, "Oh no, are you guys gonna have a domestic?" And I said, "Flex," I said, I really kind of put on like a really kind of fake face, and I said, "Flex, you hold that, please, the mic." I said, "I'm just going outside for a few minutes. I'll be back in 10 minutes." And I went outside, and I calmly walked past. I didn't even look at her. We split up the next year. And I went outside, and I went up these fire doors, and I found somewhere quiet, and I just went absolutely ballistic. I was like, I described it as like fighting invisible ninjas. I was like, ah! So I literally, and then I kind of composed myself. I took a deep breath, she's up through the nose, and
yeah,
straightened my shirt and my jacket, and I made sure I was all tidy, and I calmly walked back inside. I said to her, I said, "Right, press record this. Press record now." And I went up, I picked the mic up from Flex Wheel, and we did it again, and we nailed it.
Excellent. Excellent.
That was a situation that could have gone horribly, horribly wrong. I when you got flex wheeler, and I mean, I've had stuff like that happen where it's the you think you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be. I see it as a test, because don't be remembered for something at a show 10 years ago that you could have just quite easily just sucked it up and just kind of got on with it, because at the end of the day, we needed to get that wrap up done.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that was. So what was the question again?
I think you answered it.
For a bodybuilding show was when a guy brought on his mistress on stage,
What?
and a gust of wind came up her top, and she had no underwear on.
Oh my God.
His wife was sat in the front row. Oh, weird. That was back in Wales, back in early '90s. That was weird.
Yeah, to say the least.
And he took her to the gym one night, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, moving on from that. What was your most disappointing interview?
Well, luckily, I thought about this one, and I'm disappointed by the small select few that didn't show up. Because
Yes.
you think about it, right? I mean, you think about it, like you think about. I mean, no disrespect to Skype recordings like this, whatever.
Right.
It's when you got global. I had to drive an hour and a half to the studio. We have to get a producer. My co-host AJ, he was having to fly over from Norway.
Yes.
I'm having to drive and pick him up from the airport. There is so much. There's all the setting up of the studio. There's the lighting. There's the mic. It's like, so when somebody, and you've scheduled a time and they know what the show's about, they've seen the show, you've agreed a time, when they don't show up, that's pretty much you're on my lifetime on my GFY list.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
I can understand that.
There's two columns on my GFY list. There's the one that it's like a kind of an amber, where you're on there, and it's up to you what you do in the future that'll get you off it. I can see a cat.
There's a cat in here?
You can see a cat. Is that a cat?
That's probably Max.
Sorry, yeah, Max. Yeah, famous Max.
Max, come here.
GFY list, which is like that's pretty much you're on there for life, unless you have a complete personality transplant. So I would say it's those people that don't show up, and to be honest, sometimes it's when they don't. It's their attitude afterwards as well. So that's disappointing, because you know what? It's like we go to so much effort to really promote these people, and like I said, like Steve originally wanted just something with me with a mic on a laptop, just an audio thing. I could have done that. But the fact that we go to so much effort, and like the editing and the promotion and the uploading and the time it takes.
Yes.
So when they don't show up, Jen, it's really frustrating, and it's very disrespectful.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's just So there's a few of them that have done that, but not many, thankfully. Most people are very appreciative. And they're just very appreciative, and they're very respectful, and they appreciate the lengths you're going to promote them, and they see the benefits and the value in it, and most people are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. But I would say that's the disappointment when that happens, because you're just not disappointed for yourself, but you're disappointed for them as well, because they're closing opportunities off to themselves, or when someone's like rude to deal with, which I can't do, because I'm very strict with stuff like that. If someone's rude to me, because if I'm respectful, then and I'm going to a lot of effort, I kind of expect the same in return. And if people don't reciprocate that, it really upsets me, actually.
I 100% agree with you. Definitely. Now we're going to go to our MD channel members, and one of our members, Norvell Harris, MD Global Muscle Insider. Yes, Norvell is awesome.
Dude, nice guy.
He has a couple questions for you. First one is, what do you think are the specific barriers that prevent the average gym goer into maybe not competing, but utilizing partially some of the sound training and nutrition principles some of the pros use to maximize their physique, ultimately getting better results?
I don't really understand the question.
Okay, I'll repeat it. What do you think are specific barriers that prevent the average gym goer into maybe not competing, but utilizing partially some of the sound training and nutrition principles that some of the pros use to maximize their physique, ultimately getting better results?
I don't understand the question.
What he wants, yes, what he's asking is, how is it that there are some barriers that the average gym goer has into getting physically fit?
Yeah.
But not exactly using the same principles that the pros use for competition.
Uh, if I'm getting the question right, I think genetics is that.
I agree.
Yeah, it
I
has to be
agree.
genetics because like I've trained with people that had better genetics than me, and they didn't train as hard or as consistently, and they just completely smoke you, you know. But I would say, yeah, purely genetics. It's purely genetics. But the thing is, you know, there's physical genetics and there's mental genetics. You know, it's like Dorian Yates proved that you don't. Mental genetics is actually, and Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman had
Yes.
physical and mental genetics. He had the right mental mindset, the right attitude, but he had
Yes.
amazing genetics, and that was what happened when that combines. And then you had Dorian Yates, who had good genetics, but maybe not as good as a Kevin Levrone or a Flex Wheeler or a Sean Ray.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of shape and everything like that. But he had that attitude of like, right, okay, you know, and the work ethic. Because a lot of I'm trying to think who I spoke to recently, and I really got a feel for that work in global. It was, you know, you really get a feel for the work ethic. You know, they're the ones that really rise to the top, you know?
Totally agree. Absolutely. Now, second question Norvell has is,
Mm-hmm.
do either of you, me or you, feel that a large genre of fitness can be a bridge into quelling some of the social issues our society currently faces, more specifically, strengthening race relations and disbanding typical stereotypes? In other words, can fitness bridge gaps?
Yes.
I
Yeah. Do
agree.
you know?
Absolutely.
Sorry. Do you want to answer, or do you want me to answer?
You answer. Go ahead. You're the
Right.
guest.
I remember when, because I've been following the industry, I've been following bodybuilding since 1990. Now, I think it was in the early 90s. Was it the Rodney
Yes, Rodney King.
King? Was that 92?
I think it was 92. Yes, 92, 93.
92, and like, you know, like in LA and stuff, downtown LA, there was riots and there was, you know, people getting, you know, looting, and
Yeah.
like there was absolute chaos. But I remember reading some columns and some articles, and it was saying that, you know, when people got into the gym, the gym etiquette, it's like it was like the outside world didn't. It's like those rules didn't apply. It was like, okay, you're in the gym now, you've got to apply the gym etiquette and gym rules. And they said that the only place where there wasn't tension was in the gym, because people were just focused on their training. They weren't focused on race or anything like that. And that was kind of one of the wonderful things about, you know, like gyms and bodybuilding, is the fact that, you know, when people are at the gym, they're there to focus on themselves and their training and getting it done, and not out on the street focusing out on each other, or, you know, who's doing what, or, you know, who's trying to oppress who, or, you know, or you know, so race wasn't really. That's what I like about bodybuilding, because it's, you know, things like race and stuff don't really come into it. You know, it's whoever's got the best physique. That's what it comes down to. That's the criteria. You know, it doesn't matter what color you are or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I think you know, bodybuilding definitely brings people together, I think.
Oh, I think so too. Definitely. It bridges those gaps, and it's all about the physique. And it doesn't matter what color that physique is. It's all about having a great physique and the best physique. And may
Well, the
the
color
best physique win.
well, the color does matter, because if you've got a rubbish tan, that'll go
Well,
against
that
it.
matters, yes.
When I say color, I mean, like, you know, the color of the tan and stuff like that. Like I always say,
Hmm.
you know, your color was fantastic. Like I said to Mohammed Elaman at the India, I said your color was fantastic.
Yes.
It was terrible at the New York Pro. So yeah,
Yes, I remember you telling him that.
yeah.
Okay, so here's another question.
Hmm.
Well, actually, we answered this as a two-part question. How do we think that a fitness community would implement that change, bridging gaps with people? Do you think what I think, let me answer this real quick, and then I'll put it over to you. I think what we need to do in order to heal our divisions ultimately is have the conversations.
Yeah.
You know, just have the, not scream over each other, not yell at one another, not talk over or talk down to each other, but have the conversations. Because once we have the conversations, we can have a dialogue, and a dialogue can lead to changes.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, there is no other better solution than open, honest dialogue. But the problem is, so many people are too afraid of that confrontation. They're afraid of it going south. But like, a conversation 9 times out of 10 will usually resolve things if you're like there was a situation a few years ago at one of the Olympias, and there was a situation where it was for a couple of minutes. It was very close between me and this guy getting into a fight,
Mm.
and people were like, yeah, people were back,
Mm-hmm.
people were backing off and going, oh shit, and I was just thinking, and his voice kept saying in my head, saying, listen to what he's got to say, and hopefully he'll do the same for you. Offer him that courtesy, let him talk. So I just kind of stood there and let him talk, and I said, right, you finished? Can I talk? So I had my turn, and like 10 minutes later, we were like hugging, you know. So
Yes.
sometimes, sometimes people just want to be heard. People just want to hear. People do want to just say things, and if you don't allow them to say things, then that's where the problems can arise. And because it's been a very divisive year. Things. There's been a lot of stress for a lot of people in this last year and a half. With the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter and all these
Yes.
different movements and all these different things. And it's very and sometimes it's difficult to actually have opportunities to have just open, honest dialogues. And it's a shame because most of the time that usually works.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And
I knew
go ahead.
I knew a guy once. He's kind of, I don't want to use the word gangster, but he used to be used as a like what's the word? Not go between, but he used to be like a
Negotiator.
negotiator, yeah, for these warring gangs, like literally where people were. It was, and he would be brought in as like a arbitrator.
Yes,
Arbitrator.
there you go, arbitrator.
He would make them meet. He would organize them. He'd say, right, meet us at this place, and he'd literally stop people from killing each other because he would say, right, okay, then we need to reach a compromise here. This is overlapped or whatever like that, and he probably saved, and he would kind of get paid for that, and he'd get benefits for that, But like just having that, from stopping people being, resorting to kind of like their savage instincts and just killing each other and power struggles, and by them just having a face to face, it kind of like he probably solved a lot of issues and saved a lot of bloodshed.
Exactly. Excellent points. Now, before we go, I do want to ask you, can you give us a little teeny tiny sneak peek about episode 100? Or are you going to make us wait?
Make you wait. Yeah, sorry.
Ah.
Well, there's one main thing that I'm just trying to pin down right now, which I should have done by tonight, but I'll have that done. And it's pretty cool, pretty cool. Because remember what we did for the end of season 3?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the thing, yeah, to be honest, I've been because I'm so involved in working on the episode at the time. I kind of don't think like everyone's probably the 100 thing. It'll probably hit me when it happens, So I'm literally like yesterday, episode 99 went out, and I'm working on editing, and then I'm working on Buff and all these other shows, and the hype show for the Pro League and all these things, and Ronnie and all that. So I'm trying to, so kind of, I'm so immersed in what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm kind of in my rhythm, So I'm trying to, but it'll be quite cool to sort of reach 100 because it's been a ride, man. I tell you, it's been a ride. But like I said, so many good things have come from it as well, and it's given me an opportunity to really have a voice and really kind of and help elevate a lot of people and give people, like say this episode there's 3 lesser known names that aren't legends or Olympia champions, but I got just as much out of interviewing them because they're sometimes in some ways they're more appreciative. They're more appreciative of what you do for them. They're like, oh, like what was the guy? Mohammed Elamam. I had him on 6 months ago or something, and it was a big deal for him to be on MD. Like, oh, I'm on MD. He was so excited, and I get such a kick out of that because, they it's how a lot of people get noticed, and and kind of get publicity they might not otherwise get, or even if they don't speak English, and I'll get on a translator because I know a lot of the other outlets will shy away from that, and I'm thinking, no, you've got to do the tough ones sometimes, the ones where they don't speak a word of English and they're literally having to translate, and so I never want that challenge to go away because I think if it did and it got too easy, I'd probably get bored and want to do something else. So I like having that weekly challenge. It kind of keeps me on my toes and keeps me sharp-ish.
Well said. And we cannot wait to see episode 100 of MD Global Muscle.
Muscle.
Global Muscle? Yes. Giles, thank you so much for being on Behind the Scenes. It was so awesome to have you here. Oh, wait a minute. We got a question from the chat. This comes from Balkan Knife. In your opinion, how will Nick Walker place at the O?
I've got 6 to 8 in my head.
Okay.
I think he'll do great. I think he'll do great. Um, I like the look he brought at the New York Pro. It looked a lot fresher and cleaner, and there's some real improvements he's made there. His arms are ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he's good. He's like 26 years old. I mean, the kid is phenomenal. He's absolutely phenomenal.
I think he's going to surprise us a lot at the O.
And I'm really excited to see him against Hunter, because if you think about it, Nick is what Hunter was last year. Last year, the same, pretty much the same level, same age, kind of similar age, similar sorts. I mean, they're very, very similar in a lot of respects. And Hunter hit the ground running as well. He won the Tampa, and then obviously came top 10 at the Olympia. So I really want to see, and obviously Hunter's a year better now, and now it's all Nick this, Nick that. I'm really interested to see both of them next to each other, because I think, like I said, they're very similar. Like I said, Hunter was what Nick is to this year, if that makes sense.
Totally agree.
So yeah, but I think Nick's going to do great. I think he's a very, very, very hard worker, and
very determined young man. Goal oriented.
Yeah, he's fierce. I hope he just stays and doesn't, kind of burn himself out. Like a lot of these young guys, you're always worried when they get so good so quick. You're worried that they're going to burn themselves out, or they're going to be over enthusiastic and kind of when I say burn themselves out, whether it be training or the chemical side, or just their overall approach. Because things, when you're young and enthusiastic, you think you're indestructible, you think nothing's going to take you out.
That's right.
And then something twangs, or they have some health issue that takes them out, or even worse, like with Dallas, you just want to see these guys, because they're so enthusiastic and they're so full of intensity. You almost got to almost pull them back a little bit. So I think he's going to do great, and I think he's going to have a fantastic career, and I wish him all the very best.
Good answer. And I did skip over one question from No Bill, but I think we have to ask it. I think you know the one I'm talking about. Griff asks, who would win in a battle, the Millennium Falcon or the Enterprise?
Well, the Millennium Falcon's about a tenth the size of, but those proton torpedoes, they don't do shit, do they? They got
not
one,
really, no.
Fire one, and that's it. I mean, the Millennium Falcon's got proper guns on it. It can jump to light speed, so it can get away. But I think it's like comparing like a mini to a truck. It's like the size difference, but I don't know. The Enterprise seems so big and cumbersome. It just seems.
It would be funny. I mean, the Millennium Falcon, it shot down a Star Destroyer at one point, didn't it?
No.
Didn't it?
Oh no! Well, yeah. I suppose. Well, in Return of the Jedi, it went inside it and shot the reactor.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say the Enterprise could be a complement to the Millennium Falcon. I mean, it has a lot of power, a lot of speed, but Enterprise has a larger crew. So if you're talking in terms of winning on a battle, I think the Enterprise is going to win.
But it's not really a battleship, is it? It's like a cruise liner up against a speedboat.
Oh, they have weapons. If they have to defend themselves, they will.
Yeah. Load the proton torpedoes, and then it's like 10 minutes later, another one goes out, and load it again. But the Millennium Falcon's got all the different guns, and it's not really.
Engage. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Just joking around.
What?
I said engage.
Yes.
Well, Giles, once again, thank you for coming onto the show. Very much appreciated. I think we had a wonderful time talking. I think everyone, yes, I see it on the Rise Media Studios. Cheers. Mm-hmm. And we cannot wait to see episode 100 of MD Global Muscle.
Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you, everyone, for showing up. Special thanks to our mods in the chat, Dave and Dwayne Johnson. Until then, I'm Jen with Giles Thomas. Have a great weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Giles.
Cool. That was good. I thought you were going to ask me some really gritty questions there. I was like, ooh.